What about it? In today's video, we're going to tell you how fertiliser companies scam you and the tricks that they use so you can buy their fertiliser.
And we're going to be doing a mini mid-season renovation.
That's right. In today's video, we're going to be verticutting, and we're going to be cutting the grass, putting on some fertiliser.
Yep.
I have to hold my hands up to something. Anybody watched last week's video? And lastly, we've got something for any lawn care pros.
Yes, this video is in association with our friends over at Jobber, but more on that later.
The lawn stripes behind me look really well, and I love the crisscross effect you get from burning the stripes in. And what I mean by burning the stripes in is continually going over the same stripes, and that's how we get that really nice deep effect. So it does come with some drawbacks, and the grass starts to lie over, which I'm going to show you very shortly. So that is the main reason why we're verticut. Verticutting is like scarfing, apart from it's lighter and it doesn't take as much up. I'm going to show you exactly now why. So it cuts the lateral growth. So this is our lawn, and this bit's particularly bad, but you can see that it's laying down. So whenever we lift it up, you can see what height that grass actually is.
For any beginners watching, we've got two machines here. We've got the scarifier and we've got the machine with the verticutter cartridge in it. So you can see the differences. The scarifier has a longer blade, so it's designed for pulling out material, where the verticutter has a shallower blade and it's more designed for being less harsh and for cutting lateral growth.
So I'm going to give a quick shout out to Mototech. The Mototech cartridge fits directly into this machine. Now these machines are rebranded, so they also fit Cobra and a load of other tools. Now if you want to buy the cartridge, I'll drop a link to Mototech down in the video description, because for the first time ever I think it makes verticutting a sensible price for anyone that's in lawn care. Go ahead, Jason. Whenever we have a look at the material that's in the grass box, there's quite a bit in there. This is our lateral growth. Surprising whenever you have a look at the lawn, because there's not actually that much material coming off the lawn. But let's get the lawnmower out and give it a cut. So I haven't finished cutting the grass yet, but we've just had a bit of an issue. So the problem with old lawnmowers is they tend to break. So Jason's going to fix this. This is the drive. So while Jason fixes this, I'm going to tell you about one of the scams that fertiliser companies do to trick you. So while Jason fixes the machine, I'm going to start with seaweed. Really good place to start. So we have an 8%, anybody, Carpet is actually my own brand of fertiliser, but we have 8% seaweed, and we make a big song and dance about that, and there's a really good reason for that. So a lot of companies, and I'm going to say they're doing absolutely nothing wrong, but they'll sell you a seaweed and they'll call it concentrate, and they might sell it for £1 or £2 a bottle, but it will not tell you what the percentage is. And the reason for that is a lot of seaweed concentrates will have 0.001% seaweed in it. I'm going to say they're breaking absolutely no laws by doing it, but unless it says clearly on the bottle how much the percentage is, then chances are it's going to be a very, very low amount. So the other thing I would say, and this is the same for pretty much any product you can buy, always think about the application rate. How much do you need? So this bottle does 500 square meters for a lawn. If we were going to be putting on our plants or whatever, we would put it on higher. But always have a look at the application rate, because sometimes it looks cheaper to start with, but then whenever you look at the application rate, you need an awful lot of it just to put on a small area.
Fixed. Time to get some seaweed onto our carpet.
If you're a lawn care pro, you're going to want to hear this next tip. For the last 10 years, I've used software called Jobber to manage my business, and I honestly couldn't be without it.
It keeps everything stored in one place. If you're invoicing, quoting, or scheduling, so there's no more chasing paperwork and no more missing jobs.
Doesn't matter if you're solo or you have a team, Jobber's fantastic as it keeps everything in one place.
As you saw earlier, we had a breakdown with one of our machines. If this had happened on a job, it could have caused chaos, but with Jobber, was easily sorted it.
That's right, with Jobber you can reschedule jobs, you can keep clients and customers up to date directly from the app.
Yep.
You can share files and pictures with team members, and like I said, everything's in the one place, so nothing gets lost and forgotten about.
Nope. So if you're a lawn care pro and you want less stress and more control, check the link in the description for your exclusive Premier Lawns discount.
To start this off, we're going to start with a granular fertiliser. On this, for any beginners, is NPK.
Which is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium.
A lot of people new to lawn care automatically look at a bag and go, oh, that's got the most NPK in it.
Yep.
We're going to go with that. That's going to give me the most bang for buck. But that doesn't always tell.
It's not always the case.
Yeah, it doesn't tell all the story. Now, the way I like to think of NPK is up, down and all around, or shoots, roots and fruits if you were a gardener. Those elements come in different forms, and that's the difference between cheap fertilisers and expensive fertilisers. To kick this off and to keep it nice and simple, we're going to look at some different forms of nitrogen now. Nitrogen comes in lots of different forms. This stuff here is called urea, and it is 46-0. I've used this in the past. We used a plant growth regulator, something like Primo Max, and you would put this on alongside it. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that. That's as far as I'm going to go. You would also see urea in AdBlue. I know there's a big fashion in America. There's a lot of American channels putting AdBlue onto their lawns because it's just straight urea with nitrogen. I think that stuff is like 32%, but I would encourage you not to, because you never know what else is in that chemical and what you're putting it onto your lawn. So the health of what goes underneath your lawn is important at the top. There's other forms of nitrogen. So you, in the past, any regulars to my channel will have heard me talk about this stuff, which is sulfate of ammonia. This is 21%. You might put this onto your roses. You can also put it into mixes. But the problem with these products here is they have a very short life. So whenever you put them on the lawn, you're putting on a really strong dose, and it makes the grass grow like mad for a week or so, and then it dies away in no time. There's absolutely no control to it. So what other types of nitrogen can people get?
Ammonium nitrate. Well, you can't get that here though.
Ammonium nitrate is the stuff that goes boom.
Yeah.
So they don't sell it in Northern Ireland for obvious reasons. You can also get nitrogen in the likes of your compost. So
Yep.
putting compost onto your lawn.
Blood meal, fish meal as well.
Yeah. So to start, this is actually our pre-seeder. So this is a pretty good one to start with, because a lot of pre-seeders can be quite cheap. But again, just to think about the application rate, more often than not, especially with a pre-seeder, the little prills are quite large. These prills aren't so big, but often the prills can be a lot bigger. So what that means is you need to have a much higher application rate. So even because you're looking at a cheap bag of fertilizer, the application rate, so our products are typically between 25 to 35 grams a square meter. But in some products, it might be 50 grams a square meter. So your cheap product all of a sudden starts to cost a lot more if you're having to put on twice as much. Now, one of the reasons why I didn't actually bring out the pre-seeder in the spring was because we wanted to get the granular size, the right size. So in the end, we've gone, we're actually not using this stuff because the prills are bigger than we'd like. So we're going with a pre-seeder that's the same size as the rest of our fertilizer. So what that means is then you don't have much changing to do if you're going to use one product to the next product to the next product. There's not very much, there's only maybe a small change on your spreader. Whereas if we had a bigger prill, then you would have to, every time you applied fertilizer onto your lawn, you'd have to be changing the settings every time. So I just wanted to make it really easy for people, but that's just a sidetrack. So come on over. We know the size of the prills and the application rate is a big thing to look out for cheapness. Another thing is, so we're talking about different forms of nitrogen. These 3 bags of fertilizer are all different. It's not just the NPK, it's different on it. Our summer feed is actually a controlled release, and our spring and autumn feed is actually a slow release product. So again, there's slight differences in the products, just in the form of nitrogen that's going on the lawn. Another thing you would often see with cheaper fertilizers, there'll be a high salt index. We know that from our own body, if we put in too much salt, it's bad. That's the same for a lawn. It also, if you have a high salt index, then whenever you put the fertilizer on and you get hot weather, it can scorch much easier. So another way that companies trick you, well, they don't trick you, but with fertilizer, often they put iron into it. So iron is a really good thing to put into a fertilizer, and you typically see iron going into a cheaper fertilizer. And the reason for that is whenever you put it on, you get that instant green up. We know that anytime we put soluble iron onto our lawns, we get pretty much instant results. And it's not just as instant on a granular, but it does happen really quick. So what happens is then they can typically put in cheaper products. If you see an iron and fertilizer, then it generally, not always, but it generally indicates that it's a cheaper fertilizer. Another one is trace elements. Often you'll see trace elements in a bag of fertilizer. Often companies will just put trace elements in because it just looks better and it's easier to sell a fertilizer. Although our fertilizer has other stuff in it, and I'm going to tell you why now.
Robbie, have you forgotten to put something in the summer fertiliser?
Good catch. Our summer fertilizer doesn't have any phosphorus. What does phosphorus do?
That's for your roots.
So your lawn doesn't actually look for phosphorus during the summer months, and it moves very slowly through the soil, but also it's in the spring and the autumn feed.
Yep.
So we know that as it moves slowly through the soil, your lawn doesn't actually need to have it down. Now there's a really important reason why it's not there. Why is that?
Algae bloom.
So anyone that lives in Northern Ireland will have heard of an algae bloom that's in our main water supply, and it's become a real issue with pollution. So for that reason, we've decided to leave it out of our summer fertiliser so as we can be more sustainable. So our fertilisers contain magnesium instead of iron. I'll tell you the reason for that. So magnesium and iron they're very similar, but they're not. Magnesium is the core element that helps make chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the thing that turns your grass green. Whenever you add on magnesium, we get a really dark green, and it tends to last longer.
So, in summary, magnesium helps your plant work better, and I fucked it up.
So magnesium is basically lasts longer. Whenever you put iron on, it doesn't last as long.
Before I get the fertiliser on the lawn, the reason you'd use a product like iGrow Carpet Summer is that it's a controlled release. So for a good 8 to 10 weeks, you're going to get a nice deep green colour consistently, where the cheaper products, it's not going to be a consistent colour. You might get a flash of green to start with and growth, and then the colour will just not be as good throughout the rest of the time it's on there.